Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan arrived in Beijing seeking a $3 billion loan from China. He is on a 4-day official visit to China seeking investment in China-Pakistan economic corridor. But how will he ensure safety of Chinese investment when Pakistan security forces personnel themselves are unsafe in Balochistan? Even as we speak, there are reports from Pakistan of multiple attacks on Pakistan's frontier constabulary headquarters, checkpoints and camps in Balochistan. Pakistan's interior minister had confirmed that 12 Pakistan army soldiers were killed in 2 different attacks yesterday, and another attack, 10 people were killed last week, 10 Pakistan army soldiers, which means more than 22 Pakistan army soldiers have been killed. The Baloch rebels, of course, put this figure much higher. Operations are still on. Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan is back at Chinese President Xi Jinping's doorstep, once again seeking funds. Imran Khan has flown to China to seek more funds, a higher than mountains and deeper than oceans friend who has been intimidating Pakistan of late. The Pakistan Prime Minister landed in Beijing on Thursday on a 4-day official visit to attend the opening ceremony of the Beijing Winter Olympics and to seek a loan of another $3 billion.
तो हमारा मकसद ये है कि अब जोर हमने देना अपनी इकोनॉमी को बढ़ाने के लिए, जो हमने बदकिस्मती से पहले नहीं दी अपनी इकोनॉमी के ऊपर तवज्जो। हमारी अब खास कोशिश है, इकोनॉमी पे हम जोर लगा रहे हैं ताकि जैसे जैसे मुल्क के अंदर हमारी दौलत में इजाफा होगा, हम फिर अपने लोगों को गुर्बत से निकालें।
Imran Khan is accompanied on this mission by Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, Finance Minister Shaukat Tareen, Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry, National Security Advisor Moeed Yusuf and Commerce Minister Abdul Razzaq Daud.
पाकिस्तान के प्रधानमंत्री इमरान खान फिर इस मौके का लाभ उठाते हुए वो विंटर ओलंपिक के बहाने से फिर से वो चीन पहुंच गए हैं अपना भीख का कटोरा लेकर के। उनके नए पाकिस्तान की हालत ये है कि चीन के ऊपर एक्सटर्नल डेट $80 बिलियन का है। उनको $4-5 बिलियन हर साल पेमेंट में, इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट में देना पड़ता है। इसलिए वो उनकी 2 रिक्वेस्ट होगी। पहला तो ये कि इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट को डिफ़र किया जाए, उसको रीशेड्यूल किया जाए, और दूसरा ये कि डेट को भी रीशेड्यूल किया जाए और नए डेट दिए जाएं, नए कर्जे दिए जाएं।
China has been facing a major global backlash over atrocities on Uyghur Muslims. Pakistan, in dire need of funds, is bending backwards to please China, turning a blind eye to events in the Xinjiang province, where over 1 million Uyghur Muslims are in concentration camps.
There is a lot of criticism about the treatment of Uyghurs by China in the West. But our ambassador went there, Moinul Haq, who's our ambassador in China. We asked him and he went there and he sent us information that this is actually not true on the ground.
Ahead of his visit, Imran Khan was questioned by Pakistani students forced to leave China during the COVID pandemic. Beijing is neither accepting these students back nor has provided any clarity on their future.
मैं चाइना यूनिवर्सिटी से PhD कर रही हूँ। मैंने चाइना में 2 years स्पेंड किए हैं। मेरा कोर्स वर्क कंप्लीट है, लेकिन मुझे अपनी डिग्री की रिक्वायरमेंट्स के लिए मुझे रिसर्च कंडक्ट करनी होगी। मेरी रिसर्च का कुछ पार्ट रहता है जिसको कंप्लीट करने के लिए मेरा चाइना जाना बहुत ज़रूरी है। मैं गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान से अपील करती हूँ कि वो प्लीज़ चाइनीज़ गवर्नमेंट से नेगोशिएट करे और हमारे लिए कोई पॉसिबल सोल्यूशन निकाले ताकि हम ऑफलाइन अपनी एजुकेशन को कंटिन्यू कर सकें।
Pakistan has been on the edge of bankruptcy for some time now. It is once again seeking Chinese aid that Pakistan well knows comes at a huge cost. While Xi Jinping may oblige Imran Khan once more, economists are clear Pakistan has fallen into a grave debt trap and may end up losing even more territory than it has. Bureau Report, India Today. Is Pakistan being kept at an arm's length and literally in Beijing? Imran Khan flew all the way to Beijing, but instead of a one-on-one meeting, had to make do with a virtual meeting with the chairman of China's National Development and Reform Commission. Imran Khan and his team, including Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, National Security Advisor Moeed Yusuf, Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry, the Finance and Commerce Ministers were all confined to a conference room holding a virtual meeting with the Chinese on progress on the China-Pakistan economic corridor. But Pakistan's main aim remains to get $3 billion loan from China. Now, the question remains, is Imran Khan being given the cold shoulder? Has the response been rather lukewarm in Beijing? Is China worried about its investment in the China-Pakistan economic corridor? Is that investment actually going down the drain, given the ground realities in Pakistan, especially in Balochistan? Pakistan seeks more investment, but how will it ensure the safety, let alone returns on China's investment, when even Pakistan's army and FC headquarters, camps and checkpoints and personnel are not safe? Joining me on India First, Arzu Kazmi is a journalist, columnist who joins us from Pakistan. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash is a former top diplomat. He's served in Pakistan and in China. Geeta Mohan is India Today's Foreign Affairs editor. My first question is to you, Arzu. Did Imran Khan receive a lukewarm response in Beijing? And is this because he's there to seek perhaps another $3 billion?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me, but Gaurav, you put me in a really tough situation because I have to defend my country and my government, which is very difficult right now. Because yes, Imran Khan received a cold shoulder, and why not? Because every time if he go just for a money or just for funds or loans from the different countries, how long they will tolerate this? So yes, even in Pakistan, everybody is criticizing him, and this thing is not going too well, even with Pakistanis, because he must work on the economy of Pakistan instead of going around and just begging. Or as you know, that as beggars have no choice and beggars can't be choosers. So of course he is facing cold shoulders, and it's very embarrassing that nobody comes from the high command or high profile people from China to receive him. And this is, you can see in the videos which you are playing. So it is very embarrassing for the people of Pakistan, but I am just surprised that our ministers and our Prime Minister and government, even the establishment, the army is not facing, is not, you see, is not feeling this embarrassment. And it is goes just against our country and against everybody who's living in Pakistan.
I'm certain it's very embarrassing. Of course, I'm sure you've heard this many times from him, कि आपने घबराना नहीं है. But let me also bring in Geeta Mohan and Ambassador Vishnu Prakash into this conversation. Geeta, there are reports of massive losses that the Pakistan Army and the Frontier Constabulary, they're facing in Balochistan. Pakistan government till late last night had confirmed 12 Pakistan Army soldiers dead in 2 separate encounters in Noshki and in Panjgur. Another 10 were killed over the weekend. That was in Keech. That makes it a total of 22. Baloch rebels, however, say this number is much higher and continues to rise even as operations continue as you and I speak. So if Pakistan Army is not safe, Geeta, how safe would investments be in Balochistan?
Well, certainly not very safe. Remember the attacks that we saw in the recent past, where China was very worried whether if their investments are secure or not. The ambassador had met with the Foreign Office officials to raise the very same concerns not so long ago. So the Chinese are worried about their investments, but because Pakistan is geostrategically a very important country and positioned very importantly, is the reason why China continues to invest in Pakistan. And also remember, when China stands isolated, or there are only a few countries that come to China's rescue and turn a blind eye, like we put out in our report, turn a blind eye to the human rights violations against Uyghur Muslims in China, only for their own personal gain, for their own strategic gain, and that is to get the kind of money that Pakistan really requires, with the kind of financial losses, the kind of weakened military strength that Pakistan is facing, and China has used that optimally to its advantage. When the world is boycotting, diplomatically so, boycotting China and the Beijing Olympics, Imran Khan has had to show his presence at the Olympics. But more importantly, it was for Pakistan, because Pakistan needs the money from China, Gaurav. So it is a give and take relationship, but more so over here, Pakistan needs China more than China needs Pakistan.
Interesting point to make there. And Ambassador, Pakistan Army and FC, the Frontier Corps or Frontier Constabulary, they're not safe in their own headquarters. There are multiple attacks that are taking place on the Pakistan security forces in Balochistan. Unconfirmed reports say that fresh attacks have taken place this afternoon and this evening. Sir, that be the case, how safe are China's investments in China-Pakistan economic corridor? Or so many years down the line, is this, the project CPEC stillborn?
That is precisely the problem that Imran Khan is facing. China is certainly not happy with Imran Khan, and particularly President Xi Jinping. We know that President Xi was supposed to visit Pakistan in September 2020. At the last minute, the visit was cancelled. Imran Khan has not had FaceTime with his patron for more than 2 years. He was very keen to go. And one of the reasons why the Chinese are upset is precisely what you are mentioning. There have been a series of attacks on Chinese engineers. Chinese engineers have been killed. And Mr. Imran Khan tries to assure them about the security, about the safety. But as you very rightly said, if the Pakistani army is not secure, what can be secure? So that complicates his life. He is trying to invite Chinese to set up special economic zones, to set up industrial parks, to sign off on the second phase of CPEC. And CPEC itself is rife with corruption and delays. So there are lots of difficulties. Mr. Imran Khan is trying very hard. I mean, you were mentioning about the Pakistani ambassador going to Xinjiang. Till a few months ago, Mr. Imran Khan didn't even know whether there was something happening in Xinjiang. At least now, he sent his ambassador who went to every corner of Xinjiang and gave a clean check. I mean, he's trying his very best. He contributed an article for the Global Times where he has called the relationship Iron Brotherhood. Now, what does Iron Brotherhood mean? I do not know.
Yes.
And he is certainly the most stated purpose is obviously to cheerlead his patron, Emperor Xi Jinping, for the Winter Olympics, get $3 billion. But also there is a personal angle to it because he is on a slippery slope.
Yes.
And he wants to show that China is supporting him. The man is in trouble. He has difficulties with the army. By the way, this time the army chief did not accompany him.
Yes.
In 2018, the army chief had gone along with him. And so it is, and there is a lot of pushback. There is corruption. There is inflation. There is economic mayhem. So these are very difficult times for Mr. Imran Khan, but he has perfected the art of borrowing from X, giving it to Y. And also Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince, will also be there in China. So he will be able to meet both Ram and Rahim. And I think he will try his best to impress them both.
Except that he was the one who actually led a campaign against Mohammed bin Salman and Saudi Arabia. He wanted to establish the alternate caliphate with Turkey and Malaysia. And I'm sure Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia is not going to forget that in a hurry. But that's the question, Arzu, I was coming to you with in just a moment. Pakistan's army chief has not accompanied Imran Khan on this visit to Beijing. It's a 4-day big visit. There are so many cabinet ministers who've gone, from the finance minister to the commerce minister to the foreign minister to the NSA and so on. But the most powerful man in Pakistan, General Qamar Javed Bajwa, has not gone. Is this because of Balochistan, that if he's lost, according to Baloch freedom fighters, some reports say 50, some reports say 100. I don't want to hazard a guess. I'll go by whatever your government is putting out officially. 22 Pakistan army soldiers dead so far, ma'am?
Exactly, because of Balochistan, I think Army Chief not with the Prime Minister this time, but also Imran Khan and Army Chief is not getting along too good these days. As you know, last speech we said delivered, and he said "Ghatiya logon ki baatein" and all these kind of words which he used. So everybody thinks that he want to say all these to the establishment or maybe the media. But obviously 90% people think that it's just he said these things to the establishment. So they are not in a very good terms. So that's why maybe Army Chief not with him this time for China. And yes, things are very bad in Balochistan, and I think they were expecting Afghan Taliban to handle TTP and BLH. But this time Taliban are not ready to help Pakistan or to talk with TTP. And we are facing very tough situation here, and even they said there is an emergency situation in Balochistan. And Sheikh Rashid is, I think he's alone here. He's the only one who left behind and not along with the Prime Minister to China. And this situation is very difficult for him to handle. You can see his body language, the words he used in these days on his report or on the TV. So things are really, we are worried about Balochistan, and we are criticizing, people are criticizing Imran Khan that in this situation where the Balochistan is facing a lot of trouble, and he is going for the Olympics in China. And of course, he will not say anything against China, or he will never defend Chinese Muslims, because we want money from China, we want projects from China. And everybody knows that how many things we already mortgaged to China, and IMF even, our bank, even our Standard Chartered Bank, sorry, not a Standard Chartered, the Standard Bank we are having here, they are bank also in under IMF. So Pakistan's banks and everything under that IMF, and they can order anything to our banks.
No,
so,
and I completely understand the situation on ground, but the facts that we are watching, and we are watching what is happening in Balochistan very, very closely. Ambassador, before I bring in Geeta Mohan, I want to understand from you the reports that I have gleaned from Pakistani media seem to indicate that these were near parallel simultaneous attacks that took place at the FC headquarters at Noshki. There was an attack on a camp at Panjgur. Then there was earlier an attack in Keech. 10 soldiers died there. More than 20 or 30 apparently in these two. And maybe Arzu Kazmi can tell us facts. Apparently there are 3 more attacks that have taken place. BLA, or the Baloch Liberation Army, has launched 3 more attacks today. Ambassador, as Arzu Kazmi points out, it's a situation which is almost like an emergency in Balochistan, and Pakistan fears that this fire could spread to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa now.
Absolutely, but let's look at the reasons for that. There are ethnic fault lines in Pakistan. The problem and the challenge is that different provinces have not been assimilated. Balochistan is being treated as a colony which is being exploited for the benefit of other provinces. The shots in Pakistan are called by the Punjabis. They are in the army, they are in the government, they call the shots. And whether it's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or whether it's Balochistan, they are treated as second-class citizens, and that is the whole problem. And the response is not to help in economic development, not to assimilate people, not to give them employment, not to give them a sense of belonging, but apply force. The way Balochis have been killed, the way they have disappeared, but the way they have been tortured, there is going to be a response. So progressively things are deteriorating. And there is Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan lying in wait. There is the Baloch Liberation Army. And yes, you are right. I also believe that even today there have been some attacks and counterattacks. So with this kind of a situation, to Mr. Imran Khan to have a kind of a blasé attitude and say nothing to worry, things are all right.
I mean, his line is, आपने घबराना नहीं है, लेकिन इस समय तो शायद बहुत ज़्यादा घबराहट हो रही है पाकिस्तान में. there are reports and I don't know if they're true about attack helicopters and drones and anti-aircraft weapons and night vision devices and M16 rifles, and we'll do a separate show on it. But Geeta, all of this would be making China very nervous. They've put $60 billion in China-Pakistan economic corridor, and the fire at one end in Balochistan and perhaps another in Gilgit-Baltistan, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and that fire from two sides will ultimately lead to Pakistan's Punjab province?
Well, that's one of the reasons why there has been slow progress in the CPEC and the BRI project, which CPEC is a part of. Because of security concerns. China continues to monitor and every now and again has security assessments of the region, of the area where they've invested within Pakistan. And it is a very sorry state of affairs. It is not a positive signal for China. So China always concerned and has been raising matters with the Pakistani side. But this is a deal that they've made only for their own strategic reasons. They're not just looking at how much money is going to come out of it, although there is quite a bit. And Balochistan will stand to be exploited as it has been, as Ambassador Vishnu Prakash just mentioned. But the fact is that this is a relationship where both sides need each other, only to show to the others, including the West, that has a stake in Pakistan, given the Afghanistan scenario, that they are there, they have a foothold, and they're not going anywhere. And that's the only reason why they're there. Although, yes, when it comes to the CPEC project and the BRI projects within Pakistan, it has been a slow process and security always a concern for Beijing.
In fact, now it's far beyond security, but will China now exploit Balochistan? Remember, Balochistan in 1947 was an independent country. Kalat wasn't a part of Pakistan, and we'll tell you that on another debate in the days and weeks ahead. But for joining me and Arzu Kazmi, do stay safe. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash and Geeta Mohan, many thanks for joining me. Memes going viral about Imran Khan and his katora in China. I leave you with these images. Many thanks for watching.